Welcome, welcome, welcome to another episode of Office Hours. Welcome, everybody. Today, we are talking about the purpose of routines. And yeah, I'd say my routine's gotten a little bit stronger after having written that article or that blog, because why not? I'm improving as well. So, welcome, everybody. Had some crazy weather here in the Philadelphia area the last few days, lost power. So hopefully that won't happen today. And I know the last couple episodes, the live stream has been a little bit pixelated. So I'm hoping that is not the case today. Kind of discovered it serendipitously on another live stream using the same platform as I did. And it turns out I think it was a storage issue. Anyway, I'll spare you the details. So yeah, welcome to all of you. Sabomi, welcome. LinkedIn user, welcome to you. Genius Masterclass and Trade Ladder, excellent book, great event right now. Thank you, appreciate it. That's nice to hear. And Mike, hello to you. So we're gonna let everybody kind of load in here before we get rolling. As I said, we're gonna be talking about the purpose of routines. I think many of you understand the overall idea of what routines are, but are you as surgical as I would like you to be? You know, as surgical as the different elements of your routine can be, and ultimately purposeful for producing the outcomes that they ought to be producing. BY, hello to you. Love and peace. Excellent. Pete, congrats on your qualification. Yes, the tournament. Yes, on Monday this week, I qualified for the Philadelphia Open, which is kind of fun. Play against some pros in the area. Yeah, I got a chance to kind of test myself against some of the better players in the area. So that'll be great in a few weeks. I'll get to do that. And Brandon, welcome to you as well. So here's the blog. I'll kind of post in the chat that I wrote earlier this month, and I'll just share it so you all can see what we're talking about here. And I should say, for those new to Office Hours, if you can, kind of smash the like button, share it with friends who you think would benefit from either today's topic or any of the other previous 24 episodes, please do so. And as always, I will be getting to both the questions that were submitted in advance, as well as your most pressing questions for me today. So by all means, you can post a question anytime. I will circle back around to it in a bit. And we got a few more people coming in here. So let's see. Menzie, excellent. You've been waiting for this one. Good. Awesome. Paul, thank you. Appreciate that. And Moose, welcome to you as well. Clay, good to see you. All right. So here we are. Building a winning routine, understanding the purpose of routine. So I would suggest you go to this blog if you haven't read it already. It kind of gives an overall view of what I'm going to talk about today. But the general idea is this, okay? What is the purpose of a routine? I think the purpose of a routine from a performance standpoint is to make it more likely that you will be performing at your best. Simple. Now, you're going to see a question that kind of runs in the antithesis of this, because I want to key on the phrase more likely. There are no guarantees, okay? In poker, in trading, in golf, in pretty much any performance arena, if you can increase the probability that you're going to perform great or decrease the probability that you're going to be at your C game, right? Making B game more likely in that scenario, all of you would take it in a heartbeat. I mean, you look at the professional athletes that are out there, right? They have spent years cultivating a routine that does exactly that. So that's the general purpose. Now, what you're using your routine for can be varied. Many of you are not professionals. You're not full-time traders, poker players, professional golfers. So how do you still create the outcome without having, poker, trading, golf be the center point of your entire life? Well, that's those sorts of adjustments come in. But we look at kind of three major parts of a routine. I talk about it here in the blog. So I'll show you exactly where it is, right? So you got kind of the overall routine, kind of the aspects of how you structure your life both before and after you trade play, and what you do afterwards. But then you also have the specific kind of pre-game, pre-session warm-up. You've got like a routine and a process for what you can do during the event. Actually makes me think, anybody here actually out at the World Series of Poker right now? Because if you're in kind of the torture test of playing many events at the World Series, the in-session within tournament routine is, I think, one of the most important things you can be utilizing to minimize burnout and ensure that you can play well. Doesn't look like anybody's from the World Series or is playing the World Series, which is good. I would want you focused because most events are actually going on right now anyway. Maybe you're on a day off anyway. So we go back to right, purpose versus. So you've got those three elements plus a cooldown routine. So let's just look a little bit more about the warm-up routine. So in general, all of you do something before you trade or play. I mean, it's kind of impossible not to. Now, back when I was starting out in poker, a lot of the routines would be, I just roll out of bed and open up a computer and start playing online. And so that routine is as pretty minimal as you can get. But the bottom line is, like, whatever you do before you start playing is your routine. The question is it helping you to play well from the start? And I would say that is the primary purpose of a warm-up routine immediately before it, to get you ready to play right from the go. Because a lot of times, the early part of trading or playing can be defined as a warm-up, and then you're at risk of making mistakes. And some traders, players, even golfers, they will subconsciously not try as hard, not work as hard early on with the intent of actually using anger as the thing that's going to drive them to play well. So they have to kind of make some mistakes, lose some money in order to get themselves kind of a little kick in the ass to play well. Not ideal. Obviously, it costs you money to get you there. The other thing is a warm-up routine should be getting you prepared to battle up against the mental and emotional issues you're likely to face, as well as to make the improvements from a technical standpoint that you've been working on, because they're not guaranteed. And when you get the opportunity, you really want to take advantage of that. If you are unprepared to make progress, both mentally or tactically, right, it takes you 2 repetitions to make up for that missed opportunity. Why? Because you missed one, and then it takes you 2 to get back to where you could have been. So the urgency priority to be well prepared, I think, needs to be there. And your warm-up routine is really the key time with which you should be reviewing materials related to, let's say, from a mental and emotional standpoint, you could review mental hand histories to understand the deeper causality of particular problems. You can understand kind of the map of your emotions to make sure that you can see in real time the escalation of greed, fear, FOMO, anger, loss of confidence, as well as having your strategy in place. What are you going to do once you see those things show up? Okay, so the warm-up routine is a chance to kind of review all that and make sure you're going to go in with a game plan that has an opportunity to make progress. Then we've got this kind of in-game routine. And for some traders, poker players, right, this is actually huge, because problems don't start out early on. They start because you're playing too long, you're trading too long, you're not really as sharp, focus wanes, energy wanes, and then you're just at risk of doing something dumb. And once you do something dumb, then all bets are off and your emotions are kind of off to the races. So it is really important that you establish a process for minimizing the degree of that fatigue affecting you. And I think in general, it means having some structured breaks. It's not always easy to do, right? Opportunities are not always as consistent, especially with poker and trading. Like, these are, kind of highly variable industries. So it doesn't have to be like firm on a time-oriented standpoint, but you could very easily just set an alarm, let's say, to go off every hour. Okay. Now, does that mean you have to take a break every hour? No. But it does mean that if you're going to choose not to at the point that alarm goes off, you maybe have to set another alarm to go off within the next 15 minutes to make sure that you're kind of aware of, like, all right, when I see an opportunity, I'm going to take a break. And if the next alarm goes off, then you got to find the opportunity immediately. And you're going to do that regularly throughout the day. Now, it doesn't have to be an hour. It could be 2 hours, 3 hours, but find the interval that I would say kind of doesn't get you right to the edge of where you're at risk, right? It just is too risky to do that. So if by chance you notice that on average, like, 3 hours in, you're at high risk of mistakes, well, take a break at 2 hours, right? That's a big window where you're likely to kind of capture it. So that's kind of the in-game routine. Now, there are kind of routines that you could add to that, because it's not just the break, right? Sometimes what you do in the break really matters. If you take a break and you're just on your phone for 10 minutes, like what's the point? I think a real effective break is one where you are just completely like detached from the game, from trading, and you're actually giving yourself a chance to rest, right? The absorption of data, the consumption that is going on while you're playing and trading is really, really high. So what a small break does is allow you to kind of squeeze out some of that data. Now, for traders, you have maybe more of an opportunity to do this if you're not somebody who's high frequency, right? If you're only taking, let's say, 1 to 5 trades a day, there are multiple opportunities where you could still be present at the screens without actually being as engaged. That's going to be fatiguing. So to kind of manage that, just taking notes can be a way of helping you to kind of digest the day's action, so to speak. Okay. Now, that real break is key, because then when you come back, you're going to feel a bit more reset. And what does that do at the end of the day? This becomes really important, and especially for those who are at the World Series of Poker. If you do this in every break, right, and don't get sucked into having those, I think, asinine conversations that you hear just walking through the hallways of bad beat stories, complaining about table selection, whatever, and you actually just take a few notes down for yourself and have a 10-minute break to just go chill out, you will find that your edge is a lot higher at the end of the day. And then we go day over day over day, tournament over tournament. It's just going to be harder for you to burn out, and your edge is going to be greater at a time when it's going to be lowering for other people. So that's kind of the in-game routine. And then the cooldown, right? What you do afterwards. Why does this matter? It matters because of tomorrow, right? If you never trade, never play poker, never play golf again, we don't give anything. It does not matter if you do a cooldown routine. Okay. The cooldown routine is, in essence, all in the guise of helping you to be better tomorrow or the next time that you're going to trade or play. And that preparation takes several forms. One, it could be just capturing information on what happened, so you can be confirming or rejecting the fact that you made progress, learning more about why you didn't, reinforcing why you did, what you did well, important things to note. Then the other side of it is, if there was a lot of emotion that built up, yes, taking the rest of the day off and going for a workout, having a few drinks, yada, 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 right, can help you to release that emotion so you come back reset tomorrow. But have you really learned anything about why you were so emotionally compromised and how that emotion built up and why? No. And so I think doing, kind of a brain dump, just a lot of writing, just get it all out on paper. It does several things. Number one is it captures the data you need to eventually kind of analyze it, break it down, and understand the causality, and then have that information refine your strategy. But then it also actually does help you to rest better. And especially for those, World Series is another great example, right? There's just a ton of hands on your mind and you're tired, okay? And all you want to do is go to sleep, and yet you can't, because your mind is just ripping through all of these examples of hands and situations. Well, if you do a bunch of writing at that time, which I know is torture, nobody wants to do it. It is the hardest thing for me to get clients to do. But every single one that forces themselves to do it tells me how valuable it is, as much as they continue to hate it. And I don't care if you hate it, just do it. But you will sleep better, and you will avoid kind of the like 6 hour, then wake up with a lot of thoughts in your mind, right? You want to be able to sleep deeply and sleep long enough so you do fully recover. So yeah, doing that kind of writing is not what you want to do, but there's a lot of things when it comes to this game that you don't want to do that you need to. All right. That's my spiel on routines. Let's see what's going on here. If you guys have any questions. Tropical Trader, good to see you. Casey from New Zealand, good to see you as well. I see a couple questions come in here. Rochelle, hello, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. All right, Joel's saying, I have alarms on my iPhone every 15 minutes with different reminders, but I find myself not paying attention to them, just stop without acting. Then delete all of them until you can find the minimum that you'll actually start to use, right? That's the worst thing about a routine. As soon as it becomes routine, then it might start to lose its effectiveness. So you want your routine to maintain a vitality. Otherwise, like checking boxes is not like what we're after. Okay. Miguel, hello to you. Yanabai, your content is so helpful. Thanks for coming on. Well, I appreciate that. Thanks for being here. Jake, I try to be most efficient with my evening routine, but I have FOMO about missing a stock on my screeners. And so I run screeners ad nauseum, and then my actionable list seems too long. Thoughts? So clearly there's something to work out there, right? If you're saying you have FOMO, that is a mental and emotional problem that needs to be broken down. Like there's something that is driving a behavior, an action that is uncontrolled. I mean, it sounds like what you're saying here is that your process is not effective, right? That you're missing actually opportunities because your action list is so long. So sometimes the FOMO, right, actually causes the thing that you're fearing, right? You're fearing to miss out on opportunities, but you're actually, those actions are causing you to do that. So again, anytime that you have like an emotional driver of action, behaviors, thoughts, etc., that you can't control, that is causing problems, then you need to use the mental hand history. So go back to one of the previous office hours or consult the book or the masterclass and break down, right? And understand the underlying causality of what's driving them. If you do that, then you have an opportunity to better structure your routine in a way that's actionable. Because, you know, routine is under the category of discipline. Okay. And so those that know my material, like discipline issues, which this would seemingly be into that category, are only discipline issues if you can prove that there's no emotion driving failures or violations of the routines that you set or in your discipline. And in this case, I think that's unlikely to be the case. Breathing, pre-plan, body check, mind check, emotional check. How do you stick to routines? So I think one of the key factors to get you to stick to routines is understanding why they're so valuable. Let's go back to this. Okay. Building a winning routine. What is the purpose of these routines? Okay. If you don't understand the purpose of it, then I think it's easy to just ignore it. Right. Once you start to see the causality, like if I do A, B, and C, I perform better. I am less likely to make big mistakes. I make more money. Then it becomes really easy to stick to a routine because you've proven its value, right? The athletes I've talked about, they know that the routines that they've honed over years and years, it proves that they play better when they do these things. On average. Doesn't guarantee it, but on average, they will play better as a result. So when you have that kind of causality, it becomes easy to follow. Now, yes, are there things that you're doing in your routine that are unnecessary? That may be. So you can do some research. You can do some testing to find out, all right, if I remove, you know, this element, if I stop doing, let's say if I stop drinking coffee, if I no longer, look on my phone for 10 minutes before I start trading. If I don't know, you just pick the thing. If you can see some of the stuff that's somewhat superfluous and may be unnecessary. But the things that I mentioned in that blog, right, they are by and large things that are guaranteed to increase the probability of you playing well or avoiding big problems. And they're the most simplistic that you can get. I think kind of the minimum. Everything else, you know, is kind of for you to add, right? So for some people, like meditation, I think could be an example. Some it's vital. For others, it's actually not really helping. You know, it's creating a false sense of calm and optimism when there's, you know, underlying emotion that's, you know, being hidden and blocked out and then causing problems. Good question. All right. So what other we got here? Recently took a break from trading, went to DC and had an enjoyable time. It's been 2 weeks and I'm totally off on my trading. Focus, timing, mindset is so off. All right. So let's say to avoid the vacation hangover, the vacation rust. Now, it's not going to help you now, but one of the things that can be really helpful is to take notes and almost do like a larger cool down from the days, weeks, maybe even months prior to that vacation, prior to that break. And what it will do is kind of consolidate kind of where you are so that you can then kind of pick things back up when you return. But for the most part, if the break is long enough, rust is inevitable, and understanding that, actually makes the routine for coming back even more important, because you can shrink the amount of time it takes you to get back into a good rhythm. Yeah. All right. So I'm going to get to a couple questions that came in advance, and then I will return to those questions that you all have now. So by all means, keep posting them. I will come back to you shortly. All right. First question comes from Chris. How much time should you implement a routine without making changes before you start making changes? Okay, I read this one a couple times before I fully understood it. I think it's how much time should you implement a new routine before making changes? In essence, like how long do you need to build the habit of the existing routine before you start adding to new things? And I'd say it's kind of variable. If you're adding only something that's very small, then it might be a week or two. If you're adding a lot, then it might be up to 3 months. So it also kind of depends on how frequently you experience the kinds of challenges to the consistency of your routine. For example, turmoil in your personal life, illness, emotion, bad sleep. How well are you able to continue to adhere to that routine in the face of all of those variables? That actually determines how long it's going to take. If you've had like a month where you've been not challenged at all in any way, shape, or form, then you could add more things to it. But I think you're at risk of slipping up as soon as trouble strikes. So the hardiness of a routine is really determined by how much it's been challenged and how well you've been able to kind of persevere through that. All right, now this was the question I was alluding to before. I fully understand the importance of routines and the convenience of them. I've developed and tweaked routines and step-by-step systems for everything, both in trading and my personal life, to prevent all common mistakes and guarantee a positive outcome. Yet I have a very hard time following them. Any suggestions why there is a resistance to following my systems and routines? So number one, there's a flaw in your approach. So you don't fully understand the importance of routines because you're believing a lie. Okay. There's not a single routine on the planet that can guarantee a positive outcome, nor your performance at its best. At least consistently in the types of environments that I'm typically working in. Right? If you're going to do something once, then yeah, I think it's fair to say you can develop a routine that's going to guarantee a positive outcome. Think of like a space shuttle launch. Sure. Right. However, for most of the performance environments that I'm working in, the frequency with which you are competing and playing and trading, et cetera, I mean, there's just too much variety. So ideas are off a little bit here. Okay. So the following it, I kind of already got to a little bit, but any suggestions why there was resistance to following them? I think there's an element of perfectionism that's in here. And I think that you think that maybe any small piece that's off or any poor performance means that your routine didn't do what it's supposed to. And so you're not following it because you haven't found a causality that actually lines up with your expectations. You're just expecting too much from them and it can't live up to that standard. So yeah, why would you find something that's not actually doing what you think it should? But in truth, what you think it should do is not actually right. How do I balance trading, a full-time job, or relationship, and my own personal sanity? Please give us some tips on this, Luco. Key word in this question is balance. Okay, I think there's a faulty idea out there about what balance even means. What does it even mean? Like it's like a balancing act, like you're walking down a balance beam and you're trying to manage all of these things. I would actually consider it more like juggling. And I personally have had to deal with this, having gone from being single to then being engaged and married and then having a kid and having a business and then, getting back into golf and, owning a house and just lots of stuff that I would consider a better word is juggling. How do you juggle trading a full-time job, relationship, and own personal sanity? Like then now all of a sudden now it feels like a skill, right? That there is actually an independent skill to being able to juggle. How many balls you got? So here you got 4, right? Trading, full-time job, relationship, personal sanity. How do you juggle those 4 balls? Well, you make some small changes in all elements, or you find ways of structuring your day to ensure that there's attention given to all of them. And then maybe you also reduce expectations because you might be putting yourself under pressure. Again, perfectionism is a common problem. So there might be some perfectionism in here too. But again, I like the word juggling, not because it's a better word, but because of the implications of what you're trying to do. Balance, I think the reason that the idea of balance is flawed is because balance is really a reflection of your goals, right? If you are servicing your goals properly and your actions are kind of aligned with that, then you're in alignment. You're balanced, right, with your goals. If you're out of balance, does that idea help you to become in balance? I don't know. It's just, maybe I'm just being specific on a term. I just think juggling has the image of what you're actually trying to do, right? You've got all these balls in the air. How do you catch them and keep throwing them and make sure that you're not dropping anything? Because that's what happens, right? Drop balls and sanity decreases. What causes a trigger to follow others into trades? Okay. What causes a trigger to follow others into trades, although one's own strategy has been working well? It happens so fast, resulting in giving back most gains. Should a person focus on creating new habits, the psychological aspect, or something else? Thank you, Faye. Well, Faye, so anytime that there's emotions being triggered, that would be evident here, right? So here you are giving up your own strategy for somebody else's ideas. I don't think that that's necessarily a habit, or at least I don't know if we can prove it yet. So in general, traders that have this problem have a weakness in their confidence. Now, that weakness in their confidence can come from many things, but if you've already worked on your confidence, then maybe there's a habitual pattern that remains after doing that work. That certainly can happen. But if you haven't worked on your confidence yet, to give you the stability to trust in the systems that you spent hours and hours developing, then that's the thing you have to focus on first, and then your ability to adhere to that will follow. How does one explain to his family that they should respect the routine and not distract him all the time when they do not realize how important focus is while trading? This is challenging. I mean, there's obviously a lot of variety in what people who don't understand trading will understand. So I think you kind of challenge yourself to come up with an analogy that is close. Now, I think athletics is one that's similar. Now, they may kind of laugh at that, you calling yourself an athlete, but you do kind of soften it and say, look, yes, this may be an extreme example, but it kind of gives you the idea that the reason that basketball players, football players, golfers, right, have a process is because it helps them to prepare to be at their best. And in this case, your own money is on the line. So I don't think anybody in your family is going to want you to go into an environment where you have the potential to lose your own money, and not be prepared for that. So yeah, being able to kind of make it clear to them how damaging distractions can be, how costly they are, and so they may kind of push back and say, well, how hard is it anyway? You're just clicking buttons, right? This isn't like an athlete who has to get their body warmed up. And so you remind them that your mental processes are kind of equal to their physical technique, right? Your decision-making process, your vision, your sensation of the market, right? These are require a degree of mental clarity, emotional balance. And if there's something kind of disturbing that, right, to use a Star Wars example, there's a disturbance in the force, your ability to extract money from the market is going to be significantly diminished, and you may be paying off others. I have a pre-trading routine. However, some days when I wake up, the thoughts of following the routine doesn't even come up. I don't even register that something is off. How do I safeguard myself? I mean, I think alarms could come in handy. Well, maybe like what you do before you go to bed is the operative word, right? It's like have a sticky note on your door, on the bathroom mirror, just somewhere that tells you go through your routine. Add something physical. We don't have to make it too complicated, but I would just make sure that before you go to bed, you're prepared for the morning, right? Some people do better that way. I certainly have been that way, right? I'm one to just kind of get up and do what I've already determined. And if I haven't determined the right things before the day started, I'm liable to be more random at the start of the day. But, I'm very good at following my orders once I've set them. And if I do that the night before, my day is generally better off for it. All right, a couple more questions, and then I will get back to the ones that you all are posting. And yeah, we still got a bunch of time. So, regarding your chapter on desperation, I'm working through this with a trading coach and a therapist. Thank God. So, for those that aren't familiar, desperation is in the confidence chapter, chapter 7. It's the most intense mental game issue that I deal with because it really does kind of verge on, personal issues that I think really demand the attention of a therapist. So I'm happy to hear that you are taking that advice to heart and actually turning it into action. I've improved my technical skills and made adjustments on my rules to improve confidence and save mental capital. I still have this ongoing fear of what if I black out again, even though I have rules in place because blacking out is such a different monster. Any tips, Kim? So, if this work that you've been doing with the therapist and with yourself, right, clearly is working, you're making some progress here, but it's still fairly new-ish. Like it's only been like 3 months where you've been able to trade successfully and avoid, these blackouts, as you call it, which I assume is the description of what happens when you reach that desperation. It's still new. If you are, in the book, I talk about like that beaten dog syndrome, right? Where the self-criticism can really create a lot of fear of self-criticism. So here you are experiencing fear, but really what it is the sort of anticipation of self-criticism and the pain that you can cause yourself. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you're experiencing. What I'm saying is that right now you have this fear of a blackout and you can't really remove the fear until the risk of a blackout, or in the beaten dog syndrome, the risk of self-criticism is really, really low. And you have a lot more experience to prove that it's not going to just come back. So I don't know that the fear is wrong right now. Now, if this has been over a year, which I kind of doubt that it is, then you can actually start to work on the fear directly. And maybe it is kind of like an athlete coming back from an injury who doesn't quite yet trust that, let's say it's a football player with an ACL injury, right, that they can actually kind of cut and cut without a risk of re-injury. That sometimes takes, a little bit of time, and sometimes that fear really remains. And then we have to kind of go in, and it's actually like a mental and emotional thing that's blocking them from physically performing up to their standard, up to their capability, knowing that they're physically capable, but mentally they're not trusting it yet. It's kind of the same thing here, right? You've clearly had a deep injury mentally and emotionally. What's it going to take for you to trust that? Well, number one, we got to heal the injury. Number two, if that injury has been healed, then what's blocking you may be something else. And that's, yeah. Last question. Is there a way to comment on my blog, Avery? No, there's not. It's just not something I want to get into. So, all right, everybody. Let's get to your questions and see where we're at here. Justin, happy you made it also. All right. Question. All right. FO. Do you think there's a difference in efficacy between writing on PC versus paper? It is easier on PC. So, in my experience, this is personal. For some people, writing is faster, but paper maybe get a bit more creative. And that's actually how it is for me. So I think you just kind of have to test out to see which one works better for you. And there might be different scenarios where PC is advantageous in some scenarios and not for others. So for example, for me, when I'm either brainstorming an idea, let's say professionally, or I'm trying to explore an aspect of my mind or emotional reaction that I don't really have a good sense of yet, then like writing is like the only thing I can do. I've got to like just get some thoughts out, write it out. And that helps me to just brainstorm a bit. PC is best when I actually understand what the hell's going on. And then my brain is moving faster than my hands can write. And so I want to type just to kind of keep up with the speed of my thoughts. That's just me. So I don't know that there's like a hard and fast blanket rule that says everybody should use PC for X and not for Y. I think you just got to kind of test it out and see what works best for you. Moose, welcome. Second office hours here, amazing stuff. Other day trading, I was literally yelling out loud to myself, the chart is confirming Wong, it's confirming all the while continuing to sell short, trying to pick up a top, like someone else controlled my mouse. Before I couldn't explain this, now I don't fear I'm losing my mind and have a plan to fix it. Derek, that's awesome. Yeah, so for those that are not familiar with what this is, right, this is emotional compromising, right? Malfunctioning mind at its highest, meaning that it's your emotions have overwhelmed you. Now, they haven't gone to the point of blackout, as that previous question was alluding to. But here, I'd say it's like kind of you're like 80% of the way there, maybe 90% of the way there, where you still retain enough awareness to know what's happening, but not enough mental control to translate your thoughts into action. So it sounds like you're doing the right work to better understand the causality of that emotional intensity and really work to undermine it, likely catching the early signs so you're avoiding jumping off a cliff, so to speak. Great stuff. Thanks for joining. How to do, or maybe how to know when routines start to become boring, or like what to do when routines start to become boring. Change it up. I mean, number one, you need to have, again, just like the minimum. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is thinking that they've got to have these big elaborate things like that previous question said, right here, I made this perfect routine, but then I don't do it. Well, then what the hell's the point? We're not checking boxes here, right? The mental game, as I see it, doesn't have a lot of hard and fast rules that have to apply to everybody, right? Malfunctioning mind for sure. Right, that is a fundamental rule. If you don't understand the malfunctioning mind, right, you are worse off for it. Now, when it comes to routines, yes, I've said doing something before is going to give you, a higher probability of performing well. Well, what's the minimum that's required to do that? I think that should be the routine. So try it out. Start to figure out what that is. Once you nail that down, it'll never become boring. If it does, then that's actually an indication of a mental and emotional flaw that's likely related to your motivation, maybe even confidence. It could be evidence of overconfidence actually as well. Okay. Rochelle, exhausted most days. I feel overwhelmed by my surroundings. I went through trauma and own too many material items. I can see a need to clear mental energy to tackle this. I'm guessing I missed something earlier, but yeah, that's great. Oh, I think he's probably commenting on things I said earlier. Yeah, so Adolfo, for me, the biggest difference in my performance is how well I slept since market opened at 7:30 a.m. And to balance my job. So that means that your evening routine is actually essential. So your warm-up routine is, I'm not saying not important, but if sleep is so important because you don't have an opportunity time-wise to make up for poor sleep, then what you do in the hours before you go to bed is essential. Let's see. How to keep some conscious routines. It seems like I usually become something that we do without paying attention after a while. Oh, like how do you stay conscious of your routines? I mean, another purpose of routines is actually to reduce the mental bandwidth. right? The amount of energy that you're deploying on a day-to-day basis, right? So you think about the really basics of like just your hygiene, not making assumptions for everybody, but okay, there's a bunch of things I do every day I have to think about. You just do it. Now, that does save and preserve mental capital. There is a thing called decision fatigue. There's a thing called, well, I mean, your energy is a finite resource. So yeah, if you just imagine like how much energy you'd have to use if you had to think about literally everything you did, like as simple as like how to use a fork when you're eating. I mean, it would be hard to do the bigger things, right? So we do automate basic processes so that we can kind of keep climbing up to higher and higher things. So I don't know that you want to stay conscious to everything. You want to stay maybe conscious to the things that require consciousness. Okay, what are the questions we got here? Okay, false sense of calmness. Cool, good stuff. All right. If you could create the ultimate routine for traders from the experience that you've had, what would it be? I don't think that there is one, man. I mean, the framework that I've given you is what will work best for most traders. But yeah, it depends on where you are in your career. If you're 2 to 3 years in, your routine is going to look way different than if you're 30 years in, just because of how knowledgeable and skilled you are, like what things you're looking at. So yeah, you need to get yourself physically ready, mentally ready, emotionally ready, and the mental readiness is primarily related to what you're doing from a technical basis, what prep you need to do from, whether it's market screeners, looking at levels, right? You name it, right? But I don't think there is like a single bullet that says this is the ultimate one. What I'd rather, and what I often suggest clients to do, is to just imagine if you had to prepare yourself for the most important trading day of your life, what would you do? And that might actually involve taking actions several days in advance. And so, yeah, maybe that's a bit extreme on a day-to-day basis, but it will give you an idea of what's missing when you compare it to what your routine looks like normally. Which routine would you recommend to gain self-confidence back? So I don't believe in blowing smoke up your ass. We need to understand the causality. Why is your confidence low? I assume on the question that your confidence is low because of previous results. So then we need to be making sure that you have the ability to discern quality execution from results. That's the A to C game analysis, right? Freely available on my website. I'll show you all where that is, right? Just go to resources, worksheets, come down here. You can download all of them if you want, but right, trading A to C game analysis, poker A to C game analysis, right? What that does is it shows you the different levels of your performance, right? A game, B game, C game, or as a trader, right? Defining A trades from B trades to C trades. You can go D, E, and F if you want, right? But if you're able to clearly identify that you are trading well and results suck, that's going to stabilize confidence. On the flip side, if you can identify that you're trading poorly and results still suck, then your results aren't the problem. It's your performance, right? So we don't want you to feel confident for the sake of feeling confident, right? Confidence needs to be as close as possible to an accurate reflection of your capability. And when your confidence is low, is it deserved? And for a lot of traders, especially poker players too, the variance, the volatility in your results in the short term is so great that you end up feeling overconfident times and underconfident times, both of which are not deserved based on your performance. So yeah, that would be the number one thing I would look at. But if that's not it, right? You got to go, again, I would use the book to help break down the underlying causality for why your confidence is low, because the underlying flaws, biases, wishes, illusions, hopes, they are the real problem. And so a routine ultimately has to incorporate correcting that flaw, bias, illusion, wish, etc. in real time. And if you don't have that in place yet, then affirmations, remembering all the great trades of the past. Like, yeah, that can temporarily work, but it's not really going to sustain you long term. And so routine is not really going to do all that. All right, Justin, what quote do you have here? To this day, the task of incorporating knowledge and making it instinctive is only the beginning to dawn on the human eye and not clearly discernible yet. Nietzsche. I'm with you. I like the Einstein quote, you don't really understand something until you can explain it to your grandmother. Now, what does that mean from a routine standpoint? It means there's such a consolidated amount of knowledge that you're able to kind of transcend and reach the next levels of your own performance. In this case, knowledge and understanding. So, in daily tasks with regard to unexpected events occurring, dealing with trauma, the separation of owning material possessions, trying to let it all down while getting a routine down. How can I manage? Same idea, right? There's a lot of balls juggling. I mean, I think the trauma thing is a big X factor. So I would say that at times when you recognize that the past trauma is being triggered, have a notebook nearby and just do a bunch of writing on what's going on. It'll help you in the actual healing of that, the understanding of it, like kind of away from that scenario, but then also gives you just a little bit of breathing room to understand that, you know, how you're thinking, feeling, and reacting is old. It's based on that old trauma. It's not based on what's happening in present day. Gives you just a little bit of breathing room to, just create enough separation that you can, manage things a little better in those moments. But the more you do that, right, you kind of eke out 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes more a day, right? You just become more efficient. Casey, I like the juggling as a skill. Balance leads us to think that there's something innately wrong with us when we can't achieve it. Focus on one ball at a time. Yes, or focus on being able to juggle 4 balls at a time. I mean, yes, focus on one ball in the air, but it's the totality of the experience on a day-to-day basis that is an independent skill. So the ability to focus on one ball, let's say trading, life, family, your own self-care, like each one has its own maybe routines and skills to them. But the thing that I was talking about with being a juggler is that the juggling is the 5th element in this case, right? The 5th skill. And the ability to maneuver your day and your routine to juggle all of them is a skill to learn on its own. They would never interrupt you if you were going into surgery or you were a trial lawyer. So that goes back to the question of why is your routine so important and making sure that your family and friends don't disrupt you. So yeah, PJ, great example there. Rule of acquisition 6, never allow family to stand in the way of opportunity. Good stuff. Ricardo, I took some C game trades today after having 2 weeks of not. I realized that I failed to inject logic as the C game trades were triggered by emotional tilt. How should I move forward? What was happening today? If you are like many traders I worked with, you were overconfident and didn't realize it. 2 weeks of no C game, did that make you a little bit like relax a little bit? Kind of think ahead, like, maybe I got this stuff kicked. Maybe I don't have to worry about those problems anymore. I mean, that stuff can be subtle. But yeah, you kind of climbing higher, results-wise, performance-wise. Overconfidence is a sneaky bastard. So I would make sure that that's the thing that you're looking out for. So how do you move forward? Well, the recovery is aided when you understand what caused the fall, because then that helps to prevent it from happening again, right? Kind of like the question earlier about, the fear of blacking out, the fear of having desperation occur again. How can we remove the fear? So in this case for you, how can you move forward? Well, being able to understand that you fixed the thing that caused you to get here. Once you know that firmly, man, it's easy to recover and find actually kind of a new zone, meaning that you actually didn't just move forward and reset yourself. You move forward by actually being stronger and more capable. All right. Casey's got a couple questions here. Once you figure out your routine and you really believe in it and the purpose of it, what's the next step? Would you visualize it to help strengthen actually doing it in the real world? Sure. Visualization is a good thing so long as you don't imply causality and kind of not causality, but that it's kind of guaranteed to happen, right? All it's doing is just making it maybe a little bit more likely, 1-2% more likely that you're gonna be able to do it. I would actually make sure that you're visualizing the challenges to the routine, right? talk about visualization, I think of Navy SEALs, right? Navy SEAls don't visualize, glory in killing the enemy. They visualize the 40 ways they can die. So what are the ways in which your routine can be disrupted? Visualization can help you prepare and or brainstorm, problem solve, how to work around the variables that are gonna get in your way. Could you talk more about the psychological positives of having a routine so that it helps us figure out the purpose that we can believe in? Yeah, again, I think it's, if we go beyond like the causality and like what it's actually producing, routines save energy. Routines, I think from my standpoint, it's just that it's like energy savings, higher performance. So if there's energy savings, then what does that mean? Does that mean that you're happier day to day because you have more energy and not as burned out? Does it avoid burnout more? That can be a benefit too. But I think the belief, if you're trying to have belief in routines before you do it, then sometimes you just have to do the minimum and get some data, kind of like a trader who is on the sidelines, kind of too fearful to too fearful to enter a trade, or too fearful to get into the live market and actually just test, just get some experience. If you don't, sometimes there's just some things you can't get from sitting on the sidelines. And so I would just worry there's a little bit of that here. All right, we've got 8 minutes left. May go into lightning round because there's a bunch of comments still left here. So on coping mechanisms, I like avoiding being uncomfortable, escaping pain. If they're ingrained over decades in multiple arenas in one life, how does one start to let these type of coping mechanisms go and move on from them? In trading, this may show up as not accepting losses, being wrong. Letting go, I think, is implying that you can just like kind of drop it, right? So again, it's always going down into the underlying causality. So if these are habits, if these are things that that you've uncovered like the root causes around, then the letting go is you convincing yourself that you're actually stronger than you are, stronger than you believe, and can kind of begin to kind of crack through it and chop through it. I'm not saying that that's easy, but I would select, individual coping mechanisms to begin kind of proving that you can remove them from your day-to-day process. Hard to believe, but I was trading the whole day. That caused over trading. Thanks to your lecture, I've just wrote down a daily schedule for my trading, and I'm going to stick to that. That's great. Well, appreciate it. Which routine would you? Oh, okay, we already did that one. What's the difference between a useful routine and something that isn't necessarily helpful? The difference is that it's not necessarily helpful. The specific differences are variable. There's no way to tell that. You have to actually just have the results, right? Here's one routine, here's another. This one produces good performance, is more efficient. This one doesn't. We don't need to overcomplicate it. You just need to get the data to prove that. Thanks, Jared, for helping me through coaching. At least I'm not losing real money anymore. Keep working on my mental game, Ariel. Awesome. Good stuff. Happy to hear that. Appreciate you letting me know. How would you suggest to move from awareness to action, execute on it? I think we just pick one coping mechanism that you're doing and work on that one. If you overwhelm yourself with a lot of them, it's going to be too hard. I've been sick for a week and didn't go to the gym before starting the trading day. I didn't realize this week when I got back from the gym how important it was to my routine. So that's a great. So look, sometimes the falling off of your routine helps you to prove the causality. So great bit of awareness here. Any tips on how to know when to step away, be done for the day after a huge green day? I tend to give it all back because I end up over trading. So the patterning, right, is what you're looking for. So if you know that once you reach a certain degree of profitability, whether that's like real money, like dollar value, or percentage, right, short-sighted. So let's say it's 10% up on a day, or $1,000 up in the day. If you can, if it's sequential, right? Sometimes this big trade gets closed and you got $1,000, in your counter, you're off 10% immediately. If it doesn't happen that way, you've got the opportunity to take a break before then. Take some notes down about what's going on. Okay, likely overconfidence or greed is kicking up. Either one. just take a bunch of notes down. Try to release some of that emotion. Better understand like what is happening to you emotionally. I don't know that you understand the causality of that over trading yet. So it's in those moments where you can do that. Now, if you don't catch it until you're up a huge green day, well, then just spotlight a few of those real big signals for you, right? Mentally, it could be, this could be my best day ever. You start imagining, bigger returns, or there's like just general fantasies that go along in your mind. Yeah, those signals are kind of what you want to be looking for. And then that's the cue to then take those notes that I was saying. What would you suggest to somebody who needs to establish life routines outside of poker or trading? Is taking a break from the game a good idea while these routines are being developed? Sure. Yeah. I mean, it can go both ways. You don't have to. Sometimes it's easier to kind of get those pieces in place without the distraction of feeling like you have to get ready or feeling like you can't get it wrong while you experiment or figure that out. How do I overcome hesitation on setups which meet all technical rules and aligns with fundamentals and could have scaled in? Try to be conservative and avoid overexposure, but not sure whether that's hesitation. So first off, you got to rule out that you actually are as technically solid as you believe that you are, right? Chapter 5, mental game of trading, fear chapter. I describe, a client who was able to solve this by answering all the doubts and questions that they had at the moment of execution, right? That was exposing real weaknesses in their strategy. So that's the first thing you gotta do. Beyond that, then you got to start to identify the underlying flaws, biases, illusions, wishes that are then, you're bringing into that that setup and blocking your ability to see it objectively. Biggest trigger is getting stopped out and then price goes to my target. Today it happened twice and caused me to be in my C game. I couldn't get back and control myself. What do I do in that situation? So the situation is too late, right? Now that you know that this is your biggest problem, if you didn't already, right? Do a mental hand history on this problem and really understand like what specifically, is really triggering this. Is it injustice? Is it a lack of confidence? Is it a feeling like you did something wrong? Is it like does it feel like a mistake? Is it a hatred of losing? There's a lot of things that can be, but the mental hand history is your construct to do that. What you do in that situation, right? It's not the situation. It's what you're doing in preparation of the situation, now knowing that it's happening frequently. All right, a couple more questions. Oh my God, there's actually more than I realized. All right. All right. I have a question in regards to A to C game analysis. I created my first sample of it around a month and a half ago, and now it's changed. But I find it hard to identify my new games. For example, my C game has moved forward, but now that my old B game is usually my new C game, I find it harder to identify the new B game and can't think about my A game, how my A game can improve either. So that probably means that your range was wide to begin with, so that the narrowing of it means that you're probably just operating in a more efficient place. It's like, it's not probably like too narrow where there's like an implicit or automatic, opportunity for A game. I would just give yourself some time to explore A game, the new A game, but I would really, really try to identify the new B game. It is there. That is for sure. It's just, you just don't have the sensation for it yet. But yeah, look for it, and then maybe that actually help to give you an indication of how A game could improve. All right. Appreciate that very much. All right, everybody. Lots of great questions today. Lots of good action. Let's talk about the next office hours before we wrap up here. 1 month from today, summertime, I'm going to keep these suckers in the later afternoon so I can have my days maybe for some golf. So next office hours, July 26th, 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 2030 UTC, and we're going to be talking about the elements of your real-time strategy. For those that are not as familiar with my system, right? I've alluded to the real-time strategy several times today. I will go into it in more detail next time. And again, please share office hours with your friends. You know, if you need worksheets, go to the website here. Lots of stuff for free. Resources. We got free intuition ebook. Obviously, the office hours, and my blog has, kept up fairly regularly for the last year, actually almost over 2 years now. So lots of content for free. And then, of course, you can get Mental Game of Poker, Mental Game of Poker 2, Mental Game of Trading, the TRADERLION Masterclass, and last one, the Mental Game Tune-Up for Tournament Poker. If you're going to the World Series, you have not gone yet, it's not too late to get yourself prepped for the main event, but you better start prepping soon. Mental Game Tune-Up for Tournament Poker will be your friend. Now, for some of you, if the World Series has not gone as well as you want, this thing could have been the thing that would have helped you in advance, but now you better get it now. Okay. That's all I've got for all of you. I wish you a great month, and I will see you next time.